All right, my BMW 328, that's a 2008, won't start. And I think it's the starter that's gone, but I'm gonna walk you through some of the troubleshooting that I've done to come up with that. First off, I think it's the starter because in the morning I pressed the start button and it didn't fire for the first time. It turned over, it didn't start up the car. And that's the first time since I've owned the car that that's happened. So that showed that the battery was good, but the starter wasn't doing its job. Then at the end of the day, it wouldn't start at all, or it wouldn't crank at all. So what happens is this, which is nothing. So there's a few things that go into the starter. You've got obviously the battery. So power from the battery. You've got, I think it's called an isolator on the battery that, not even sure what that does. There's other videos on that, but there's an isolator that goes from the battery and connects to the starter. And there's a relay that checks that your key is correct. So there's a few easy checks to do. The relay that checks your key, that's actually the easiest one to check. My car recognizes there's a key. Just by opening the door, you can tell the relay is doing its job. It knows that there's a key. If your car doesn't make that sound when you open the door, the relay for the BMW, it's that black one there. They're about $30. So that's the first thing. That relay is good. The next thing is a very easy check. Is it's on the battery in the back. I think it's called an immobilizer, but it's actually something that you can just disconnect. It's connected right there. So to get that off, it's a 10 millimeter holding the negative terminal on. Take the negative terminal off, disconnect that, put the negative terminal back on, and try to start it. I did that, didn't make a change, so I'm gonna say that that's not the problem. So we've covered the relay and the isolator. Actually, the first obvious one would be, is the battery good? Just because the lights turn on, it doesn't mean that there's enough power to crank over the engine. So I have jumper cables and I have a jumper box that I can hook up, and on the BMW, the battery's at the back, but there's little studs on the front. So you've got the positive there, take off that cap, and then negative to ground. So I tried jumping it. That didn't make any change. It didn't start. So I have a good battery, good isolator, good relay. It seems like all the right inputs are going to the starter. The other hint I have that the starter's gone bad is there's two parts to a starter. There's the actual motor that spins around and engages and cranks over your engine, and there's a solenoid that moves that motor forward into the engine before it turns over. So when I start the engine and I listen closely, I can actually hear it, the solenoid clicking forward. So there's power going to the starter. It's enough power to push the solenoid forward, but there's something wrong in the motor of the starter that won't turn it over. So what I had this really old Jeep back in high school. What I used to do is take out a hammer and bang on the starter, on the main motor part of the starter, and that would loosen up whatever was happening inside. And I did that for a couple of weeks before I replaced it. But on the BMW, the reason I've got the camera here is the starter's hidden way down under, well, it's about a foot down. Not sure if you can even see it here. It's about a foot down in there. So I can't get a hammer there, but I can get a breaker bar, and I'm gonna try tapping on it. And the only reason you can see all this is with an 8mm impact gun, I took off the air intake for the air conditioning. So I'm gonna get out the breaker bar, tap on that, and see if it starts. let's give it a try. Oh, that was actually the most it's ever done. Yeah, so it's trying. So it is the starter. I'm gonna shut off the video here, but I'm either gonna keep banging it until it goes. If it goes, I'm gonna drive home. If it doesn't go, I've got a new starter, and I'm gonna do it right here in the parking lot.